Okay, hello everyone. My name is Chao Yo, and I'm the technical manager for this session, mapping stakeholder connections and influence in agriculture, nutrition, and health using the NetMap tool, chaired by Afua Tete. Thank you for taking part in ANH 2024, and we look forward to a robust and interactive session today. Thank you so much, and over to you, Afua.
So, good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Afua. I'd like the rest of my team to quickly introduce themselves, and then we'll take you through a quick introduction of the NetMap session for today.
So my name is Richmond Aite. I'm with the University of Ghana School of Public Health.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ekua Kando. I'm also with the School of Public Health, University of Ghana.
My name is Goswe, and I'm with the West African Center for Crop Improvement at the University of Ghana.
Hello, everyone. My name is Priscilla Boedi, and I'm with the School of Human Nutrition at McGill University. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Seth Asante with the International Food Policy Research Institute, IFPRI, Ghana office. Thank you.
Liz Ado here, and I'm with the University of Health and Allied Sciences in Ghana.
This is Nora Lisa Aberman from the Global Alliance for Improved Nutrition. I am based in Washington, D.C.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ariel Garso. I'm also with the Global Alliance of Improved Nutrition based in Washington, D.C.
Hello, everyone. I'm Olutaya Adeyemi. I'm an associate lecturer at the Department of Human Nutrition and Dietetics, University of Ibadan, Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much. So once again, you're all welcome to today's session of this introductory session to a NetMap. So this is an introductory session about how to carry out a stakeholder NetMap. The team is happy to walk you through the different steps of carrying out the NetMap process. And the different parts to it. This is an introductory session, and so we'll try as much as possible to let you understand the different parts, and then also answer most of your questions that will come up. And at the end of the session, we will look forward to your feedback. Thank you. So this is going to be the outline for our presentation. We'll look at a quick introduction of the NetMap, our learning objectives for today's practice session, and the instruments that will be required for a NetMap. And then we'll look at the case study, and then we would have guidelines to the breakout room sessions. And then after that, we would have a discussion in the plenary. Okay. So what is the NetMap method? So it is an interview-based mapping method developed by the International Food Policy Research Institute in 2007. So it uses social network mapping and visualization tools to understand how stakeholders influence an outcome by identifying stakeholders involved in a particular phenomenon, examining their connections, defining their roles, and then also defining their perceived influence. And during such a period, it provides the stakeholders the opportunity to discuss what the other stakeholders are involved in. This can be carried out in a group, in person, or virtual. For today's session, we are going to be looking at the virtual NetMap. So at the end of the Learning Lab, participants will be able to understand the basic elements of a NetMap interview and how it is used for participatory analysis of a multi-sectoral and interdisciplinary policy issue, and then also recognize the usefulness of the NetMap method for food systems policy development and alignment by exploring interactions among key players for decision-making. And then also understand the basics of social network visualization and how it can complement participatory learning. So what materials are needed for a virtual NetMap session? Of course, we will need the interviewers to lead the discussion process. And then we are going to need also the interviewees, because without you, it is not going to happen. Then we would have our Google board that we are going to use to draw the map. We also have our case study. And then we are going to have our linkages. For today's session, we are going to restrict ourselves to 2 linkages, technical advice and then funding. And then also attribute influence, how the stakeholders perceive the actors that have been found to be influential. And so we are going to use scores of 1 to 10. And then our stakeholder groups. So for today's session, we are going to have government, private sector, research and academia, and then donor and development partners. And let's keep in mind that you could have more of these stakeholder groups. And so at this point, I will invite my co-facilitator, Nora, to take us through the case study.
What we're working on today, because we don't want anybody sort of feeling what we want is something that's really inclusive and you can all engage in it based on your own sort of understanding of what it means to sort of assess and consider a stakeholder network. We've made up a fictional example. So we have a fictional country of Wakandaria. Any similarities to imagined or real countries are not intended, right? But so we wanted it to be something that we can all kind of engage in equally, right? And so our scenario here is that this country has made significant progress towards decreasing undernutrition in the country. So stunting went from 50 to 30%. And then there was a presidential kind of high level political statement made about, okay, but we want to take this even further and get stunting down from 30% to 20%. And I think all of us that sort of understand the challenges in that, we can see that this is a really difficult and let's say a very optimistic or a really it's a big proclamation. It's a big goal to attain. But so then here we are thinking about, as one of the experts in this stakeholder network, how do we really leverage what all the different people are doing, all the different actors, all the different organizations are doing to facilitate this progress? The approach outlined by the president and political leadership is to integrate a food system perspective into national policy. And so we want to consider then not just the actors working on nutrition explicitly or direct nutrition interventions, but really broadly from a food system perspective, who could play a role. The food systems approach considers the complexity of factors that determine diets and nutrition. And so it requires coordination across this broader set of actors. And this is sort of the motivation for taking this approach, that maybe we can make kind of faster and more sustainable progress taking this approach. In terms of what we know about this imaginary country context, some of the challenges already identified in the policy landscape include development partner fragmentation. So NGOs, donors, multilateral organizations are not taking coordinated action to the extent that they could. Also, there's a lack of strong governmental or non-governmental coordination. So there's no like clear coordination body for multi-sectoral nutrition action. And there's limited action in terms of leveraging and engaging private sector for nutrition, as well as, and maybe this actually goes to the second point, not the third point, this kind of a siloed policy and action among key government ministries. So maybe the Ministry of Health not working as sort of to the extent that they could in terms of coordination with, sorry, I think I said Ministry of Health with Ministry of Agriculture or Ministry of Commerce or whatever it is. All right, so what we've done is made up, you will recognize some of these organizations, but this is, as we said, a made up scenario. And so we have a set of different types of actors. Now, normally in a net map, you would probably sit down, we would probably spend the time to generate the list of relevant actors or who plays a role in this issue in Wakandaria. But because we want to kind of save a bit of time, we've pre-generated this list of actors. We have different categories, development partners, which includes international NGOs, donors, multilateral organizations. We also have a private sector actor, large food processor, and we have research here. We have the National Agricultural Institute, we have the university, and we have IFPRI as our research partner here, and then a number of government actors. So the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Finance. We have the Nutrition Department, which falls under the Ministry of Health, but was, let's say, plays an important enough or distinct enough role that we've separated that as a distinct actor, even though in terms of sort of hierarchically, it would be embedded in the Ministry of Agriculture. So you'll see we've categorized each of these actors according to those you know, the type of actor. And then what we've also done is identified what are the main priorities, you know, not to say that, and so we have nutrition, food security, and economic growth, not to say that somebody who prioritizes economic growth doesn't care about nutrition, but that in general, stakeholders will have a core focus or maybe multiple focuses, but that it's important to sort of see where they fall in terms of in the face of sort of competing priorities, what would they prioritize? Because this makes a difference in terms of who engages with who, how likely they are to see eye to eye in terms of an approach, and let's say sort of where more bridging might be necessary. So we have here, you'll see those who are prioritizing nutrition, food security, and economic growth. Some prioritize multiple things, and some just one or another.
Thank you very much. Priscilla, would you like to take it from here, please?
So we've gotten to the giving you guidelines in the breakout rooms. And in the breakout rooms, we are asking the participants kindly add their preferred stakeholder category to the names. So when we get into the breakout rooms, we will share the screen again for you to see the stakeholder categories that are available. And then you can quickly choose a category that you align with, and then participate in this fictional country of Wakandaria. So in the breakout rooms, we expect facilitators to guide participants in drawing the linkages to already identified actors on the Google board, and then ascribe influence to these actors. And as we are ascribing the influence, the facilitators will guide a discussion to bring out the reasons why we are ascribing influence to these stakeholders. And then we are going to talk about the roles of the stakeholders, and then through the discussion, all people in the breakout rooms will get an understanding of the roles of the actors. So after the maps have been drawn, there's also going to be a discussion about the exact maps that we've drawn in our respective breakout rooms. And then we'll have, it will be followed by a question and answer period within the breakout rooms. And that's if there are any questions in the chat for the facilitators to answer before we move into the plenary. So the team will also try and answer the questions that are shared in the breakout rooms that the facilitators were not able to answer in the plenary as we move in there. One last thing, please. So any questions that have not been answered, will be shared in a suitable format with participants through the ANH team. So we can move on to the next slide. Okay. So in our breakout rooms, this is how our Google board is set up and it looks like. We have the broad question on top, which our facilitators will also take time to go through with us. And then we have our stakeholder categories on the left, with green being government and then private sector. And then we have other colors there, which our facilitators will also take time to take us through. And then on my right, we have the linkages that we'll be exploring. For this session, as noted by IFWA, will be exploring the funding and technical advice linkages. So in the breakout rooms, our facilitators will take some time to explain to us what we mean by funding and what we mean by technical advice. And then at the bottom, we see numbered stars. And so these stars are going to be used to ascribe influence to the stakeholders that we are showing here on the board. And then we see that we have priorities for each stakeholder, as Nora showed on the table that we just looked at. So we have priorities such as nutrition, food security, and economic growth.
Okay, thank you very, very much, Priscilla. So at this point, we are going to move into our breakout rooms. Okay, great, thank you.
All right, great. So I've said it a few times, at least in my own group. This is a appetizer, taster, small bite of what it is to do a net map. I hope you got a sense for it and a sense for the value of it. Although we're not, although not as in depth as we would have liked to have gone, given the small amount of time and the large number of participants, so which is really great. I hope you got some value from it. We had two questions that hopefully were raised in your discussion group, or at least one of them was raised in your, in your breakout group, that I want to kind of frame the next discussion. So out of this process, what you should have done is taken something that maybe as a fictional expert in a fictional country, you want to now take what you learned by visualizing this network to be able to give advice to the government. So the government has this objective, and we know that improved coordination is necessary. So what advice would you give to the government to improve coordination? So please go ahead and type into the chat what you came out with, what you see as kind of a next step or required step for government or for the set of stakeholders to take in order to improve coordination. So that's the kind of the fictional aspect. And then the other piece is, what are the most striking things you observed or learned while you were drawing this map? All right, so the data from the net map, we can think of it as this is a participatory process, and we come out with this beautiful visualization that we can then discuss. We can record and transcribe the discussion. I pointed to in my session how deep and interesting, especially like the influence discussions can be, and how much you can learn from that process about the agreements, disagreements, the perceptions around influence and kind of roles and different aspects of the actors in the network. And then we can also take that data and enter it into social network analysis software and do some quantitative analysis. I like to think of the quantitative part, or the links themselves and the influence scores, as kind of like the bones, but the real meat and the real kind of value you get is from that discussion. So in this example, Afua has entered our fictional example into Visualizer, which is a free software that that all of us, I think, that have done NetMap use this a lot. So you can see we can color the actors by category, they're sized by influence. So you can see here that the Ministry of Agriculture and Nutrition Department are seen as the most influential. The poor president, nobody thought the president was influential. Oh, well, maybe just a figurehead, possibly. Or maybe that was an oversight. We need to discuss it. But and then you see that the links are different colors, designating with red being funding and blue being the technical advice. Based on this, you can do quantitative social network analysis. That's sort of things like centrality, things like, you know, which actors are more linked to more different actors. You can also look at things like their different priorities, and are there any actors that are linked to those with different priorities than them, and then they can kind of serve as a sort of a bridge or a liaison. Another nice way to look at the data is to just look at one link at a time, so we can really understand that, you know, funding might have a kind of a distinct set of patterns from advice. And so those who are highly central, or let's, you know, when we talk about centrality in social network analysis, and sort of the most basic concept is, do you have a lot of links to a lot of other actors? And so those who are highly linked in funding, like we have FAO here is highly linked, may not be those that are highly linked in terms of advice and information. Yeah, and so here we have a lot of incoming advice to the Ministry of Agriculture. Not so much to health and nutrition. And so, you know, I think what this depicts, and although it was different from the example that my set of fictional experts came up with, is that that the Ministry of Agriculture plays a stronger role in policy in this fictional country, and there needs to be some more kind of focus on Ministry of Health, or like this cross-sectoral focus. And so we might then also look at this and say, where is that coordination body? That was a big point of discussion in our breakout group, where we talked about the lack of, or the absence of a coordination body like SUN, or, you know, some other kind of government coordination body that would bring all of these actors together on a kind of a equal footing to discuss, to prioritize, to collaborate and coordinate, and leverage each other's skills, and also to pull in, say, private sector maybe is less interested in engaging or doesn't necessarily see a business case for action to address undernutrition, but we want to kind of have a mechanism to pull them in, discuss, engage, and influence. There was a request for showing what an Excel sheet looks like. All right, so this is what it would look like. For first, you have an actor sheet that shows the actors and their attributes. And if you think about our typical way of visualizing data, it's, you know, you have an observation and then you have characteristics of that observation, right? And so that is a more typical way of showing data. And the network data, if you can click on the next tab, Aqua, network data is relational. So it's this one linked to this one. There are different ways to do this, but here we have it as a matrix. And so you would read it as the EU gives funding to FAO. And so read it across and then see what they're linked to on the, on how the rows are linked to the columns. Okay, I think that's it for the visualization. Now, can we go, how much time do we have?
About 7 minutes.
7 minutes. loads of time. So let's go to, if I can ask people to, maybe we can free up, you can stop sharing. And what I would love is to have people, and is it okay for me to take the last 7 minutes to ask that question about what did you get from this? Or do we have something else? Okay. All right, great.
Yeah, and any clarification questions?
Yeah, okay, thanks, Richmond. Should I hand over to you? Do you want to finish?
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Let's do that. So, I mean, like Nora was saying, if anybody has any questions to clarify, please feel free and ask. And then what do you think your experience on this has been? Share that also. We would love to hear feedback.
Looks like
And
there's a
you
question
can
from Gudrun in the chat if you want to answer that one about who to invite to these kinds of sessions.
Oh, great. That's a nice question. So who do you invite to participate in this? You would have to scan the environment, the list of stakeholders to know who knows and participates in and understands this landscape. In this case, it's a complex issue. Stunting is not just about health and nutrition. There's also food systems, there's WASH, there are several others. So you want to be mindful of that in selecting who you bring into that conversation. Then their knowledge, and if your question is not just for now, but also because stunting takes a while to develop, you're also looking at it maybe a few years back and how things have changed over time. You'd want to have people who have been there for a few years to be able to understand the changes that have occurred. So you have to be quite intentional in choosing who you want to include in that. I hope that answers that question. Someone says to explain the Gboard setup and linkages to be explored in the breakout room exercise. I think that's a question for you.
So as you can see from here, this is a Google board, basically. So this is a Google board. And so what we did was to put the legend and then the stakeholders, just put them on the side, on the right side, and then do the same with the linkages on the left. And like I mentioned to my group, you could have more linkages. And so you could then have all the different linkages, advocacy, dissemination, and then with their different colors. And so you set it up with selecting a shape and then type it in the different groups. And then you use the line here, okay? So you use the line here to set it up. And so the arrows, you have it here. Let me select this. So once we select an arrow, you put it here, and then you draw the line, and then you leave it as that.
Anybody has feedback that you want to speak of? All right, given that it's just left with maybe 1 or 2 minutes to go, I would like on behalf of the entire group to say thank you. We also really enjoyed this session, and we hope you would use NetMap in the future, and feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions or clarifications. Over to the rest of the team if you have any further comments.
Yes, so thank you everyone on behalf of the group for joining today's session. We've learned something new. We're using this fictional country case study, and we are very grateful for the opportunity. Okay, thank you.